Amidst the opulent halls of the royal palace, where whispered secrets shivered through velvet drapes, a concealed drama unfolded that would send ripples through the fabric of monarchy itself. A lone figure cloaked in anonymity emerged, entrusted with the task of delivering messages laden with power, promises, and peril. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. This clandestine bearer, known to few and seen by even fewer, deftly wove through the shadows, a harbinger of change wrapped in mystery. The palace's golden corridors served as their stage, where each silent footstep echoed with the weight of untold stories, poised to unravel destinies and ignite the embers of revolution. The secret messenger, a ghost in a world of jewels and crowns, navigated a maze of intrigue, their role pivotal yet perilously fragile. Many a life hung in the balance, tethered by threads of whispered words. As they traversed the labyrinth of deception, the air buzzed with anticipation and fear of what lay ahead. Like a looming storm on the fringes of a serene horizon, the whispers around the shadowy figure were fraught with speculation, but the reality was a sinister chess game played under the cover of night and decorum. It was here, in the charmed husk of regalia and facade, that the first seeds of doubt were sown, subtly cast into the river of royal life, a river that seemed calm, but hid turbulent currents beneath its surface. With each secret missive, the message was clear: the monarchy stood on the precipice of change, inexorably inching toward an unknown fate. Yet, what this harbinger of change bore had the potency to alter the course of history itself. A silent revolution, crafted through the meticulous cadence of hushed exchanges, was in motion, waiting to alter the edifice of power. Each night felt thicker, more electric with the promise of revelation or ruin. The passage of each clandestine note marked a step closer to an unveiling, a truth lurking just beyond the perception of those enmeshed in the grand tapestry of nobility. The theatre of royalty waited with bated breath for the prologue of an uncharted chapter 1 that would shake the very core of its venerable house to its foundations. In the quiet solitude of a lavish chamber, a leather-bound diary lay open, the pages whispering secrets penned in an elegant scrawl that belied their weight. This was no ordinary journal, but rather a clandestine repository of confessions, betrayals, and moments frozen in time. Each entry was a window into the soul of the very monarch whose reign would later be shrouded in equal parts mystery and magnificence. And as the story unfolded page by page, it became clear that this was a tale not merely of power, but of the relentless search for identity amidst the chaos of duty and desire. The ink on the page was a stark reminder that within these regal walls, beyond the public gaze, there existed an intricate tapestry of human emotion and royal intrigue. The diaries were a labyrinth, and at every turn was a revelation that threatened to unravel the very fabric of royal legacy. Here were the musings of a ruler, guided by ambition, yet haunted by shadows of doubt. The narrative was woven with the golden thread of deception, as alliances crumbled and new ones precariously formed. A dance of power where one misstep could mean oblivion. And with each scrawled thought, the monarch's inner circle grew more entwined in a game they neither wanted to play nor could escape. Whispers of forbidden love and the dark pulse of vengeance echoed in the margins, a testament to the passions that roiled beneath the surface of unyielding decorum. Yet the diary was more than just a chronicle, it was a confessional, where the monarch poured out secrets too dangerous to voice. Fear tethered each revelation to its page, like a spectral narrator guiding the reader toward truths often left buried beneath gilded veneers. Pain and privilege were entwined, with every dramatic flourish on the page revealing the sophisticated architecture of a personal purgatory where solitude reigned. This was more than the portrait of a sovereign. It was the seismic memoir of a being caught in a perpetual storm of expectation, torn between the heart's yearning and the crown's immutable demands. Through these entries, we glimpse the fragility of power and the human spirit's indomitable will to persevere. As the ink faded into history, the reader was left at the precipice, teetering on the edge of revelation and ruin. What lay ahead for the monarch, written in the hidden recesses of this diary, was a future not yet forged, full of possibilities as daunting as they were exhilarating. And so, with the promise of destiny hanging by a thread, the next page beckoned a whisper of what was to come, echoing the undying hope that one day the legacy would reflect not just a crown but the complex soul beneath it. Yet beneath the majestic arches of the throne room, where the grandeur of the palace once promised an eternal reign, the throne itself sat brooding, like a tempest awaiting release. Those who dared to grasp its golden arms soon found them no anchor in a storm of deceit and conflict. For this crown, much revered and sought after, stood as both a symbol of unyielding power and the curse of ceaseless scrutiny. It tested, it watched, as the noblest of heirs found themselves crushed beneath its weighty promises. In the corridors where marble met hushed whispers, shadows crept upon the walls, echoing the fears of rulers past. With each decision, each royal decree, another thread of vulnerability unwound from the fabric of an already fragile lineage. As whispers grew into an undeniable din, the royal court buzzed with anticipation of what seemed like inevitable conflict. Jealousy, like a serpent, weaved its way through once loyal advisors, sowing seeds of doubt that would bloom into the eerie alleys of betrayal. In these trials, no sword proved sharper than the treachery of a trusted friend. Those who sought to unite the fragments of their heritage were met with divisions, cutting deeper than any blade. The anthem of unity turned into a cacophony of claims and counterclaims, with each nightfall draping a veil of uncertainty over their fates. All the while, a clock unheard ticked steadily, counting down to the hour of reckoning that none would see coming. Yet it was in these moments of crisis that bonds forged in adversity were tested in the fires of ambition. A sibling's love and loyalty clashed with aspirations of sovereignty conflicts that played upon the chessboard of a monarchy, straining against the shackles of its supposed destiny. It is here that the heart of the royal house truly revealed itself, battling both external adversaries and the internal demons of doubt and despair. Each whispered confidence between family members became as precious and perilous as the crown jewels themselves. Love and ambition, allies and foes alike, waged silent wars beneath the cover of regal mask. And as the moon rose high over the realms of influence, casting its gaze upon the world below, secrets that were nursed within the stone walls of the castle began to unravel, spiraling outward like tendrils of a poison vine. With each passing shadow, the looming question hung heavy in the air. Who among them had the courage or the folly to challenge the gods of fortune yet again? The answer lay not in prophecy nor in the stars above, but within the choices made in these turbulent times. Choices driven by fear, hope, and the unyielding desire for survival. A new dawn was approaching, heralding an age not defined by triumph alone, but one born of trial and tempest. This throne, though wrapped in the illusion of invulnerability, awaited the touch of a ruler whose heart was tempered by both wisdom and scars, a sovereign who, despite the trials, could rise above the tempest of the past and wear the crown not as a burden, but as a beacon. As the curtain began to lift on this new chapter, the only certainty was the trials yet to come, a future woven in the fires of the trials of the throne. Amidst the gilded halls of influence, power does not merely whisper, it roars. As dawn cast its gold across an empire hungering for a figurehead, this was a truth well understood by the indomitable Duchess Eleanor. Her journey was carved not just in the dusty pages of lineage, but in the sinew of calculated risks and chance connections. Eleanor was no simple pawn in the royal chess game. She was a queen in waiting, equipped with wit sharper than any dagger and ambition that knew no horizon. With each meticulously penned letter, another piece of the grand mosaic fell into place. Friends turned into allies, skeptics became staunch supporters, and enemies? Well, enemies learned to tread softly. Her ascent was like a haunting aria, both beautiful and tinged with an unspoken sorrow, a contrast mirrored in the delicate dance between the court's daylight splendor and its nighttime conspiracies. Here lay a kingdom at a crossroads, where legacies were questioned and loyalties tested. The higher Eleanor climbed, the more treacherous the path became. Her closest confidants shared secrets wrapped in velvet shadows, promises made under oath and dagger alike, their whispers weaving an intricate portrait of intrigue and betrayal. Each step forward carved a brighter destiny, even as it cast longer shadows. This was a world where the elegant fade of diplomacy masked an undercurrent of raw competition, and Eleanor wielded her influence like a maestro conducting a symphony of power plays and cautious alignments. Yet, her climb was not without its tremors. The very institutions that propped her up were the same that sought to bind her wings, fearing the dawning era of change she heralded. Eleanor knew that true leadership was won not just through inheritance, but through the relentless pursuit of a dream that intertwined with destiny. So, alongside her trusty council, she forged alliances that gleamed like the forging of iron into a crown, yet were as precarious as a footfall in thick fog. It was a journey of transformation where from the pages of history, a force emerged, one that was not content to be simply chronicled, but determined to write her own saga, a saga that threaded her past with the world's future, bound by the elegance of influence and the unyielding resolve of vision. As the Duchess unfurled the scrolls of authority, revealing her true station within the court, one could not help but feel the tides shift. The world held its breath, poised on the brink of Eleanor's coronation, where every whispered promise was a stitch in the tapestry of her reign yet to come. The echo of her resolve resonated through the corridors of power, each decision a ripple across the seas of fate, foreshadowing the opulent yet perilous pathway she now walked. And so, as the narratives of old entwined with those newly scribed, Eleanor readied herself for a reign that promised both glory and retribution, a reign that was, in every sense, the culmination of her relentless pursuit. The journey, though fraught with peril, was far from over. In the shadowed promise of tomorrow, destiny awaited grand, fierce, and cloaked in majesty. Though the kingdom proudly thrived under a veneer of resplendent grandeur, underneath lay shadows of approval that could not be contained. As power cascaded through the castle halls, carried on whispers and echoed through ancient stones, the royal family's authority rested precariously on the knife edge of public adulation. The populace looked upon the monarchy with an adoring gaze, drawn like moths to the luminescent flame of regality. But admiration is a fickle friend, and shadows grow long where light falters. The royals knew this well, their courtiers, their advisors, all spun within the dizzying dance of maintaining the delicate balance between reverence and revolt. Silken words of approval wrapped around their ears, sometimes suffocating, with the weight of disingenuous praise like a creeping vine beneath their crowns. Among them, the young heir, an innocent yet formidable youth, shouldered the legacy resting on this precarious pedestal. A prince still on the cusp of kingship, he bore the untold burden of legacy, silently bracing against currents of approval and disdain, forever intertwined. His courtly lessons came not only through tutors skilled in statecraft, but also through those surreptitious exchanges witnessed from shadow's edge, where truth blurs. What the court offered in staunch approval, it reclaimed in secrets held tightly, guarded jealously, lest the weight of their revelation crack the fragile fade of unity. Hanging above the heir's heart was the haunting presage of a future dictated not by his own hand, but by the very shadows that conspired to entangle him. The vibrant and pleading cry of a supplicant rises above the hushed murmurs one fateful evening, an impassioned plea from a villager wronged, exposing the gnarled roots of discontent festering just beyond the royal estate's borders. Here lies the true test, and as the court paused, breaths held and eyes locked upon the young heir, to see his reaction the anticipation drew tighter, the silence thicker. The future king felt the weight of more than mere words. He saw the tangled lineage of generations leaning towards his response. Courtly applause thundered as he acted decisively, transforming tentative doubt into a resounding approval. Yet for every shadow cast, every glance exchanged behind his back, bore the reminder that each moment of triumph was but a victory poised on the edge of dissolution. Through the mirthful dances and splendid feasts, every ounce of splendor concealed the darker truths beneath. Behind well-rehearsed smiles and affable greetings, the court of approval was a slippery dance. Laughter mingled with uncertainty as jesters jokingly chided the king's foibles, secretly pricking his conscience even as they entertained. An entourage of nobles feigned loyalty with nods and indulgent laughs, but within their gilded quarters, secrets reverberated like a drumbeat. The future of the crown was a whispered conversation in private alcoves, its stability contingent on more than the heir's newfound resolution. Kingdoms unglued by simple shadows forge precarious paths. An heir's journey towards wisdom must therefore traverse the jagged line between reverent admiration and despair's looming embrace forever in tandem, until the final curtain falls. When the news broke, it was as if a storm had descended upon the kingdom, a tempest that spared no corner, no quiet enclave. It embraced the air with an electrifying charge, the echoes of ancient whispers now roaring truths. What had been hidden for so long, shrouded in secrecy and cloaked in the velvet drapes of the grand palace, was finally thrust into the light. The revelation was a proclamation that thundered through the streets and marketplace, carried on the breath of every townsperson, ricocheting through alleyways and echoing in the chambers of the royal court. The truth, once guarded like a crown jewel, bore a weight that threatened to crush the very foundations it rested upon. In the days that followed, the monarchy found itself peering into the abyss of its own making, confronted by the spectres of its past and the tides of change it could no longer quell. At the heart of this whirlwind was a family, drawn into the ebb and flow of history by bonds as unyielding as they were tenuous. The stories told in hushed tones among the court were now unfolding with an urgent breathlessness, laying bare alliances once thought indestructible now fraying under the gaze of a watchful world. Yet amid this maelstrom, the monarch stood as a figure at once regal and profoundly human, poised on the precipice between tradition and transformation. This revelation was not merely a tale of scandal, but a piercing spotlight on the legacies and betrayals that lingered in the solemn tapestries of the royal chambers. It became an exploration of the human spirit, bound by duty, torn by loyalty, and an unrelenting desire for truth. The whispers that began in the shadows soon erupted into a cacophony, a symphonic crescendo demanding answers, justice, and retribution. Each twist and turn of this unfolding saga seemed to tie the populace closer to the throne, tightening a conspiracy of connection that tethered rich and poor alike to the unraveling narrative. The veneer of nobility gave way to raw emotion, and in the faces of the people, there burned a desire not only for a glimpse behind the curtain, but for a voice, a reckoning, and an awakening. The revelation became a mirror, reflecting society's own battles for identity and truth, crafting a tapestry woven with threads of heartbreak and hope, betrayal, and ultimately the possibility of redemption. And so, as the sun set with fiery hues on the day of disclosure, the kingdom stood at a crossroads, waiting to see whether its undying loyalty would stand the test of unrelenting truth. Yet amid all this intricate chaos of emotion and fidelity, a pressing question lingered, one that would persist in every heart until the final page was turned. In the quiet aftermath of battles waged, the years of rule etched deep into the worn lines on his face, the monarch found himself alone with his thoughts. The once bustling throne room, now a cathedral of memories, served as both sanctuary and prison. Here he pondered the relentless passage of time, each tick of the clock a reminder of the weighty crown that once sat heavier than any thought. He recalled youthful arrogance and the early days of rule, when decisions seemed simple and ambitions boundless. Those dreams lay scattered now, like fallen leaves, their colours faded, but the importance unmarred. Victory had come at a cost, triumph shadowed by the faces of those lost to ambition's ruthless blade. Often as he stared into flickering candle flames, he felt spectral hands reach out, a reminder of oaths taken and promises broken. In these reflections, the monarch was not just a ruler, but a man humbled by his own humanity. His heart, a battleground of regret and wisdom. Embedded within these musings was an unyielding question. Were the choices worth the blood that stained his hands? The corridors of power once shouted with the clamour of diplomacy and strategy, yet now whispered only of solitude. Those who had advised him found their own tomorrows, leaving behind echoes of camaraderie and betrayal. A tapestry of faces flashed through his mind, some friends, others foes, but all bound within his reign's narrative. For every triumph there were tears, for every laugher, folklore of woe. As these reflections unfolded, the monarch understood the profound truth. Leadership demanded sacrifice, but seldom offered peace. It was a relentless dance of balance, grace teetering on the verge of oblivion. Yet even in this solitude, flickers of hope persisted. The legacy he would leave behind was not forged solely in conquest or commanded power, but also in the strength gathered from his own vulnerability. A new dawn awaited beyond this twilight of reflection, and with it, the possibility of renewal, as those who followed in his path might draw from his ledger of lessons. Here, in the stillness, the monarch recognized his journey mirrored the kingdom's own rise and fall. And as he pondered what lay ahead, the silence offered one final solace: the hope that history would speak kindly of a ruler who dared to reflect deeply, even while cloaked in imperial garb. The monarch, thus illuminated, understood that while titles and crowns falter, it is the echoes of one's heart that truly resonate through the halls of eternity. The call of destiny still lingered, a soft murmur against the pull of time, urging a step beyond legacy, where stories never end but begin anew. With the veil of deception lifted and the clamour of a crumbling reign fading into whispers, the new order emerges not with the blare of trumpets, but with the quiet resolve of a people awakened. Those who watched the old monarchy disintegrate now find themselves architects of the future, wielding tools made not of steel, but of aspiration and unity. The echoes of the past, shadowed by treachery and betrayal, linger in every corner of the realm, but underneath, a sincere hope begins to take root in once barren fields. Instability, once rampant, now meets its adversary in determination, as the remnants of fear dissolve in the sunlight of new vision. Power, which once thrived on concealment and whispered lies, must now face the honesty and transparency of youthful reformers. In palaces that echoed only with the footsteps of the elite, voices of the many now fill the halls, weaving a new tapestry of governance. The scepter of control becomes an olive branch, extended in the spirit of collaboration and peace, not conquest or control. It is a landscape reshaped, yet scars of the past remain etched deep. These scars, reminders of former pain and loss, drive the architects of change to craft their legislations with caution and care, transforming fear into fuel. No longer are decisions made behind gilded doors. They are forged in open forums where each word written into law carries the weight of a collective conscience. The tribunal of change, heralded by nobodies who have become somebody, features no single hero but a collection of voices, once ignored, now amplified in a harmonious symphony for justice. As sunlight cascades over the fresh dawn of the new order, vigil with committed minds replaces complacency. The past's haunting melodies transform into empowering anthems of progress, audible where silence once suffocated. There is yet no telling how long the order shall endure, nor can one foresee all challenges lying in wait beyond the horizon. Yet determined hearts, emboldened and resolute, march on into the unknown with courage, for they carry with them the indomitable spirit that assures them that in resolve, the seeds of sovereignty continue to grow. Yet amidst triumph, subtle whispers of doubt flicker like old ghosts, quietly nudging at the leaders of this new age. They teeter on a tightrope of authenticity and legacy, knowing one misstep might unlock a Pandora's box of doubt, which could lay waste to this fragile newborn era. But even if, in the shadow of uncertainty, hearts falter for a moment, the very essence of this journey, the lessons carved into their souls by history's iron grip, will ensure their return to the path. As people's voices resonate louder than ever, this is not merely a beginning, nor an end, but the continuum of a stubborn will that refused to bow to archaic chains. This is the new order, a tribute to endurance, a promise of change sweeping over lands laden with history's heavy footprint, where every dawn holds the promise of renewal and each twilight whispers of resilience, a world still healing, but forever vibrant in its pursuit of a more profound, just. Tomorrow, with the curtains slowly drawing to a close, the saga of a kingdom caught in the throes of turmoil reaches its final act, a story where crowns weighed heavy, and legacy bore thorns as well as laurels. The chronicles of those who tread these gilded halls weave a tapestry of unparalleled complexity, where power's opulent allure dances perilously close with shadows of doubt and defeat. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. This tumultuous journey of sovereignty is etched with whispered tales of clandestine machinations, each echo reverberating through the annals of history with an unsettling kind of permanence. As the dust of discord settles, what remains is a haunting silence, one that hints at both hope and a solemn reckoning. Futures once forged in ambition now find their resolution not in absolute triumphs, but in lessons learned from trials endured. The echoes of regal voices long past linger like ghosts, reminding all who dare to tread these venerable paths that destiny is as mutable as the winds that sweep through forgotten corridors. As we part with this chapter, the gaze of the monarchy lifts towards a horizon gilded with the first light of change. The path is uncharted, the future unwritten, leaving us suspended in a delicate moment of anticipation. Yet, in this anticipation lies the promise of renewal, a chance to craft a legacy untainted by the burdens of yesteryears. And so, the story persists, as all enduring tales do, leaving us eager to witness what the next stirrings of history will unfurl within these ancient walls. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.